January 24, 1848. A cold morning in the Sierra Nevada mountains. James Marshall made his way to the sawmill as he did every morning, his boots crunching on the frost-covered ground. The water wheel turned steadily, but something about the flow seemed different today. Kneeling beside the mill race, Marshall studied the rushing water with a practiced eye. Years of working with water and machinery had taught him to notice even the smallest irregularities. A flash of light caught his attention. There, nestled among the rocks at the bottom of the channel, something gleamed beneath the clear mountain water. There, barely visible against the dark earth, a sparkle no bigger than a pea, stuck in the mud. He picks it up. The tiny object sits heavy in his palm, heavier than anything so small should be. In the midst of California's rugged Sierra Nevada, where fortunes were made and lost, something unexpected revealed itself. It's soft. It's gold. In that moment, the American dream was born, and a quiet forest was about to be swallowed by the biggest craze in human history. Today, we're going past the legends to the brutal, muddy, and billionaire-making reality of the California gold rush. Before the madness, California was a remote, quiet place. John Sutter, an immigrant from Switzerland, had a vision of a giant farm he called New Helvetia. He wanted wheat, cows, and peace. But his discovery was a curse. Marshall and Sutter tried to keep the gold a secret, but a secret that valuable spreads fast. From the bustling streets of early San Francisco emerges a figure who would prove that the real gold wasn't in the ground, but in the pockets of those who sought it. Sam Brannan, entrepreneur, opportunist, and perhaps the shrewdest mind in all of California. He was a smart shopkeeper who saw a different kind of chance to get rich. He didn't head for the hills with a shovel. Instead, he bought every single pan, axe, and bag of flour in San Francisco. Then, he ran through the streets waving a jar of gold, shouting gold. Gold from the American river. The city emptied overnight. Soldiers left their posts, abandoning duty for the promise of gold. Sailors left their ships, vessels sitting empty in the harbor. And the world's greatest race was on, thousands streaming toward California's golden promise. By 1849, gold fever was spreading like a disease across the globe. President James Polk stood before Congress, his words carrying the weight of history. The rumors from California were true. Gold had been discovered in quantities beyond imagination. The news spread like wildfire across the nation and beyond. From New York to London, from farms to factories, the word echoed, gold. California gold. The world caught fire with dreams of fortune. But getting to California wasn't just a trip, it was a journey where you risked your life. First, the Overland Trail. In Missouri, thousands of wagons lined up like a great wooden river, each one carrying dreams of California gold and the hopes of families willing to risk everything for fortune. The Great Migration began, a 2,000-mile walk across an unforgiving continent where burning plains and sharp mountains would test every soul brave enough to seek their fortune in the distant Sierra Nevada. Families walked until their boots fell apart, their dreams of gold driving them forward despite the mounting hardships. Fighting sicknesses like cholera, the prospectors faced an enemy more deadly than any mountain or river. The trail had turned into a graveyard, marking the final resting place of those who never reached the gold fields. If you reached the mountains even 1 week too late, the snow would trap you, just like the tragic Donner Party a few years before. Then, there was the trip by sea. For those with more money, a 13,000-mile boat ride around the bottom of South America seemed safer. It wasn't. It meant 5 to 8 months trapped on a wooden ship with rotten meat, bleeding gums from bad food, and waves the size of buildings that could snap a ship's mast like a toothpick. Finally, the Panama shortcut. The fastest way, but maybe the scariest. You sailed to Panama, crossing treacherous waters in pursuit of fortune. You rowed upriver in small boats, fighting the current with aching arms. You hacked through thick jungles on the back of a mule, machete in hand. You weren't just fighting the land, you were fighting deadly tropical fevers. Thousands reached the coast only to find no ships waiting for them, leaving them stuck in a humid nightmare. When survivors finally reached San Francisco, they didn't find a city, they found a forest of masts. Hundreds of ships sat rotting in the harbor, abandoned by crews who had run into the hills the second the anchor hit the mud. The diggings were not the paradise the newspapers promised. What once were pristine rolling hills now bore the scars of human ambition, transformed into a sprawling maze of makeshift shelters and desperate excavations. Every footstep squelched through the perpetual mud that claimed boots and dreams alike, while canvas shelters sagged under the weight of California's unforgiving elements. The earth lay wounded by thousands of holes, each one a testament to hope turned to desperation, creating a lunar landscape where fortune-seekers had torn apart paradise. Men known as 49ers lived on a diet of beans, old bacon, and whiskey. They worked 12-hour shifts in waist-deep, freezing mountain water. At first, miners used simple pans and rockers, working the streams with patience and hope. But greed quickly consumed them, transforming peaceful prospectors into desperate competitors. Simple tools gave way to hydraulic mining, sluices, and heavy machinery that scarred the earth forever. It started with simple pans and knives used to pick gold flakes out of cracks. But the easy gold disappeared in months. To survive the harsh conditions and dwindling surface gold, the desperate 49ers turned to ingenious contraptions called rocker boxes, wooden cradles that could sift through far more dirt than simple panning. The rocker boxes worked like giant cradles, rocking back and forth as water and gravel flowed through wooden slats, catching precious flakes of gold that might otherwise be lost forever. Then came the long tom, huge wooden troughs that needed teams of men to move entire parts of rivers. The work was exhausting. A man might shovel 10 tons of dirt in a single day just to find a few tiny grains of gold dust. As the gold became harder to find, the golden dream turned dark. In the gold fields of California, as hope faded and desperation grew, something fundamental changed in the hearts of men. The promise of riches had turned sour, and cruelty took over. In the chaotic goldfields, there was no police force, no sheriff, no government to maintain order. The miners were left to govern themselves in a land where gold fever had stripped away civilization. Out of necessity, the miners formed their own tribunals, crude courts where disputes were settled and crimes judged by men whose hands were stained with dirt and desperation. Justice was swift and brutal. A stolen nugget, a missing tool, any theft could result in public punishment that served as a harsh reminder to all who witnessed it. The gold panic spread like wildfire through the camps, turning friend against friend as desperation took hold. Accusations flew as miners blamed each other for empty claims and broken dreams. Men who had shared meals and hardships now stood as enemies, their brotherhood shattered by greed. American miners, believing the California goldfields were rightfully theirs alone, began to view foreign miners as unwelcome intruders threatening their prosperity. They pressured local authorities to impose crushing foreign miners' taxes, designed to drive out Chinese, Mexican, and Chilean prospectors through financial hardship. When unfair taxation wasn't enough, American miners resorted to intimidation and violence, systematically chasing away foreign competitors from the mining camps. The saddest part, however, was the organized attack on the local Native American tribes. In the name of gold and progress, groups of armed miners gathered with grim purpose. To clear the way for their mines, these men launched terrible attacks that would forever stain the golden dream. In just over 20 years, the native population was cut down by 80%. And while the miners suffered, the shovel sellers thrived. This was a time when some people were very rich and others were very poor. While a lucky miner might make $20 a day, a lot of money back then, he had to spend $3 for one egg and $100 for a pair of strong boots. Businessmen like Sam Brannan became the first millionaires during the gold rush. Others like Levi Strauss and Henry Wells realized the real gold wasn't in the ground, it was in the pockets of the workers. They built giant companies out of blue jeans and banking, transforming the chaos of the gold rush into organized fortune. While most miners ended up with nothing but broken backs and empty pockets, their dreams buried in the mountain dirt. By the mid-1850s, the time of the lone miner was over. The surface gold was gone. To get the gold buried deep, big companies used hydraulic mining. They used giant iron water cannons to blast entire hillsides with high-pressure water. The hydraulic mining and industrial machinery worked with ruthless efficiency, extracting vast quantities of gold from the Sierra Nevada mountainsides. But the price of success was written across the landscape in gouged hillsides, poisoned streams, and forests stripped bare of life. The relentless pursuit of gold had transformed the pristine mountain rivers into channels of thick, choking mud that flowed like blood through the Sierra Nevada. What once teemed with life now carried only death, as countless fish floated belly up in the poisoned waters, victims of mankind's golden fever. The contaminated waters swelled beyond their banks, sending massive floods cascading down into the valleys below, drowning the dreams of farmers like John Sutter beneath waves of mining waste. From the scars left by countless miners across California's pristine wilderness, a new understanding emerged. The devastation wrought by hydraulic mining, the poisoned rivers, and the stripped hillsides became impossible to ignore. This led to the first major laws to protect the environment in American history. The gold rush didn't just change the map, it changed the world's clock. It turned San Francisco into a world-class city almost overnight, as gold fever brought thousands of fortune seekers from around the globe. The immense wealth from California's gold paid for the first railroad across the country, connecting East and West forever, and forced the United States to deal with the issue of slavery as California joined the country as a free state, reshaping the nation's destiny. But the men who started it, John Sutter saw his land ruined by people moving in without permission. And he died a sad man. James Marshall, the man who picked up that first piece of gold, died in a tiny cabin, broke and alone. The gold they found built the modern world. But it burned the very hands that found it. The California Gold Rush is the ultimate lesson in human drive. It showed us that one discovery can move the world. But the real winners are rarely the ones chasing the sparkle. They're the ones building the foundations under the chaos. If you want more deep dives into the stories that built our modern world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Tell us in the comments, if it were 1849, would you have taken the trail or stayed home? Thanks for watching.